same goal. We've got to get Joe Biden elected. We have to send Mark Warner back to the Senate, myself and Bobby Scott for the House. And just wanted to give you a quick update on my race. I will tell you that on the list that the Republicans have, the top 10 in the country, this is one of the seats that they want to take back. Everybody knows my opponent. We did it once. We beat him once, but it was only a slim margin, only 6,000 votes or 2 points. But the National Republicans have poured $3.2 million on TV against me, the CLF, Congressional Leadership Fund. So you've probably seen the start of those ads. Also, the NRCC is coming in, and they have created another $500,000 paid canvassing and ballot chase program on behalf of my opponent. So we obviously have some huge hurdles between here and Election Day to continue to get our message out and make sure that we can win again in this really difficult seat. You know, as a reminder, the district as it's drawn right now, because it has been redrawn a few times over the last decade, but as it's drawn right now, McCain, Romney, and Trump all won this district. I'll tell you from our polling that Trump's approval ratings are staying pretty steady. And people might be like, I can't believe that. Well, it is really hard to believe. But if you think about how the district was redrawn in 2016, we lost large portions of Norfolk, including Ghent, West Ghent, and Larchmont. And what did we gain? We gained Poquoson and York County. So there's a lot of really strong Trump support up there, and we just have an uphill battle to work against that. So I'd say to the group here of Norfolk Dems, that what we can do is just boost the turnout from people we know support us and are going to vote for the Democratic ticket in Norfolk and on the South side. I know Courtney Doyle's on the line, and there's going to be a lot of announcements about ways that people can vote early and what those locations are. And that will include Pretlow Library, which is right in the heart of the second that's in Norfolk. So, we look forward to working with everybody here to make sure that we can boost that turnout in Norfolk. And my campaign manager, Veronica, is on too. We'd love to have anybody that can, participate in our phone banking and all of the other efforts that we have to make sure that we can hold this seat, because truly the majority we got in the House, I feel like that's the only check that we have right now on the president, is that we have a Democratic majority in the House. And this is one of those seats, and you're the people who helped work to do that, to win that majority in the US House, and we need to keep it. And there's just a lot of work to do between here and Election Day. So thanks everybody for being here, and look forward to working with you so that Joe Biden can win, Mark Warner can win, and Bobby and I can also go back and continue the work that we're doing. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Congresswoman Luria. I will say, and I was going to be an announcement towards the end, we will be rolling out NCDC phone banking operation this week. We're calling it our neighbor to neighbor program, so that people who live in, say, the Pretlow precinct will be calling people into the Pretlow precinct in a neighbor to neighbor manner. So that's getting rolled out. So we'll do our best to get Norfolk's numbers up for you. All right. I don't know. Are there any quick questions for the Congresswoman before we move over to the mayor?
Yes. Yes.
Hi, Ruth.
Ruth?
Hi, Elaine. Best of luck to you. This is a question, something really frightened me this morning. Counting ballots. Now, I know you're not in charge of the states, but maybe you could take this back. I'm not really a Bernie supporter, but I love Bernie. He sent a letter about states counting ballots. Many of the states, I don't know about Virginia, are counting the ballots before Election Day, mail-in ballots as they're coming in. But the Republican-led states are not allowing it. And this is going to probably cause mayhem on Election Day and thereafter, which is exactly what our president seems to be wanting. Is there any way to prevent it? Is there any way to get all of the states to count the ballots as they are being sent in?
Well, Ruth, I mean, you did mention the key point is that each state controls the process for their election, and then they have local election officials. So, you know, it is not a federal function to dictate how the states administer their elections. I think here in Virginia, you know, I feel confident in a lot of the election security measures that we've taken and of our local election officials to carry this out in a fair and accurate way. But, you know, I don't think that at the federal level, there's a way that we can dictate how the states do it, but you know, we can certainly advocate for it.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, that will be a nice segue possibly into introducing the mayor. Before I do that, I should have done this at the outset. Of course, we know already Congressman Scott's on the call. I saw Councilwoman Doyle, of course, on the call. Delegates Lindsey and Guy are on the call. And if I missed any other elected officials, I'm sure we'll be as the campaign or as the call moves on. So again, thank you very much, Elaine. Best of luck. Norfolk will be there for you as we can. All right, up next, I am so excited about this. We asked the mayor to come on. Councilwoman Doyle can chime in as well about some of the great progressive things we are doing in the city of Norfolk to make voting in a pandemic easier. So I'm so proud of the mayor and our council on what they've done. And Mr. Mayor, if you want to kind of give us an update, that would be great. Yep. Let's see, hold on, Kenny, are you muted? All right. You're still
He's not muted. He's not.
microphone working, Mr. Mayor?
There it is.
How about now, Charlie?
There we go. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Charlie. It's good to be with you and all of the Democrats. Let me just do an overview first. Voting, of course, is November the 3rd. There are some deadlines I want to remind everyone of. Deadline to register to vote, of course, is Tuesday, October the 13th, in person by 5 p.m., online by 11:59 p.m. If it's going to be postmarked or by mail, it should be postmarked on or before October the 13th. The election is November the 3rd. On the ballot, of course, is President, Vice President, Senator Mark Warner's on the ballot, Congressman Bobby Scott, and Elaine Luria. Also, there are 2 constitutional amendments on the ballot. First, to establish the redistricting commission. And the second question is whether or not an automobile or pickup truck that's owned and used primarily by and for a veteran of the United States Armed Forces or the Virginia National Guard who is 100% service-connected, permanent, and total disabled, shall that vehicle be free from state and local taxation. And third is a referendum on the ballot. That referendum deals with the casino, and the language is already crafted, and the language will appear on the ballot. Shall a casino gaming be permitted at a casino gaming establishment in the city of Norfolk on property east of Harbor Park Stadium, bound to the north by Park Avenue and to the south by the eastern branch of the Elizabeth River. And so that will appear on the ballot as well. Now, Norfolk Office of Elections, right now, there is no language crafted by the State Board of Elections to allow for drop boxes. Although the legislation was signed by the governor on yesterday, the State Board of Elections will have to offer guidance to all of the registrars across Virginia on using drop boxes. Our council passed an ordinance this week to allow for satellite locations, and Charlie mentioned the satellite locations. The locations will start on October the 12th for voting at the 4 satellite locations.
Good.
They will be open for in-person absentee voting at this time. Berkeley Community Center, Jordan Newby, Anchor Branch Library, Lambert's Point, and Mary D. Pretlow. These locations will open for about 3 weeks. Of course, early voting, no excuse absentee voting for the election will begin on September the 18th. Deadline to request an absentee ballot by mail is on Friday, October 23rd by 5 p.m. Deadline to return your absentee ballot by mail, of course, I've already stated that. Also, we are still waiting, and if Atoy or others, or Michael was on the phone, they can speak to the drop boxes, whether or not their office or Barbara or whomever there's knowledge of can speak to whether or not they have received any guidance so far from Stephanie, although I know it was just yesterday that Governor signed the legislation about the drop box locations. That's the only thing, Charlie, that we're not certain whether or not the 4 locations that I mentioned will be also used for drop-off locations. Will they be used as drop box locations? We don't know because that guidance has not been issued, and maybe others on the call may have some information about that. Now, some may ask, why wasn't it special legislation? Why wasn't an emergency clause on the legislation? Maybe members of the General Assembly can speak to that. If it was emergency legislation and the General Assembly would have authorized by general law the drop boxes instead of allowing the State Board of Elections to come up with regulations, then we would not be having, that conversation. The law would have, the legislation would have been very clear on drop box locations, but it actually gives the State Board of Elections the direction to come up with regulations to create drop box authorizations and how that will be carried out. So Charlie, I'll stop there because I know that we're only have an hour and there may be questions that I or Courtney or others can answer.
So Mr. Mayor and Charlie, if I could add, Kenny, I don't think we quite know the hours yet of those 4 locations, but I know we encourage them to be obviously Monday through Friday, but we also encourage Stephanie to see if she could get Saturday hours. And so I think we'll find out more about that as we get closer to the October 12th. And of course, you can learn about the times, dates, locations on the city website through the website of norfolk.gov, the state board, and so on. So, Mr. Mayor, Kenny, am I missing anything on the times yet? Have we heard those?
Courtney, you're absolutely right. What we're proposing is Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. That's October the 12th through the 28th from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And on Saturday, we're proposing on October the 17th, 9 a.m. to 5. And on Tuesdays and Thursdays, October 13th through the 29th, 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. That's what we're proposing.
Yeah, and we
and
encourage
that is on the
hours.
website.
Say again, Barbara?
It's on the city website. It's already up.
Oh,
So, okay, it's gotten up in the last
Yeah.
week. Wonderful.
yeah. So no, that's
And
great.
I might add on the drop boxes, the legislation was really more in a budget bill, and it does mandate the drop boxes, but it says that elect, which is the state elections office, must come up with the guidelines. And the issue is, of course, security. A secured drop box that is like a mailbox can cost over $1,000, but you can't get them now. That's the problem. Many localities are getting corrugated boxes, and when you have a corrugated box that is not secure and you have to man it, you have to have somebody sitting there to make sure it doesn't disappear and that it has that chain of custody that's required in the bill that was passed. So localities are really scrambling to secure the boxes and also, well, by secure, I mean even buy them. And elect still needs to come up with its guidelines. But the Code of Virginia was silent on drop boxes. It didn't say no, it didn't say yes. It only said that the ballot had to be handed to the registrar. And that's still up in the air. If you have a secure drop box and nobody is there, do you have to still hand it to somebody? And that ID issue is still up in the air if you have to show your ID when you drop the ballot off. But that's still going to be the quickest method.
Charlie, this is Carolyn. Couple things. First of all, doesn't the Trump administration have a bunch of post office boxes they could loan us? Anyway, I would really like to see a timeline of how long it takes to do your registration, when your voter registration is available, because I know in the mail, getting the cards right now is taking a really long time, and you can go in and early vote. Because I know the voter registration deadline's coming up. Is there some way we can get some sort of timeline to give people an idea? If you want to early vote, you need to register by X, and you're not, can you register to vote online and then walk down an hour later and register to vote? I'm kind of fuzzy on that, and I think it would be helpful if others kind of had an idea of that.
Well, I can tell you this, and forgive my tardiness, but I literally had to change my password 6 times before it would allow me to log in. But I do know personally an example. I have an example where someone registered online, and literally within 2 days they were approved.
Okay, so, is that pretty typical?
Yes, that's a pretty fast system. If there is some sort of an issue, if you register online and you get your confirmation, you can still vote a provisional ballot. You can always, if there's some glitch with the database, you can always insist, I want to vote a provisional ballot, and then that's usually all sorted out by the time the board reviews them.
Why can't you go down to the registrar's office and register, and then say, now that I'm registered, I want to vote?
You can do that.
Yeah, and if you're registering by third-party voter registration, they're told to give the registrar up to 14 days.
Well, I mean, if you just go down to the registrar's office and register, and they say thank you, and they say you're welcome, but now I want to vote, they can hand you a ballot right then and there.
Well, they have to do, they have to check all it. They have to verify all of your information, and I'm not sure that they're going to be able to verify everything while you're standing there.
What do they have to verify?
Well, they have to verify the fact that to make sure, say for example, if a person had their voting rights revoked, to ensure that indeed they have been restored. So they have to check information like that.
But if it's a routine registration, you just register and then you can vote.
If it's routine, it seems like it should. Well, you know what? That's a good question, Bobby. I don't know.
Yeah.
Barbara, have you had experience?
Well, they still have to check to see if you have, you mark on there, I've never had a felony conviction, and that's your word. And if you, like a toy said, if you mark on the application, I have been convicted of a felony, then they've got to check that it's been restored. But if you go online, it goes right to the registrar.
Exactly.
And there's still some, checks that they have to do.
It doesn't take that long.
Check and see, because I've been telling people if they wait till September 18th, they're not registered. Wait till September 18th. Just go to the registrar's office, register and vote, and get it all done all at once.
The system, one of the things they want to check is that you're not registered in another state. That's another thing that's checked when they receive your application. And that's a way that they can check to see if you're not, registered across, state or duplicating your voter registration information.
But they can't possibly verify all that before they let people vote.
Well, you know what? I'm gonna try to text the registrar right now, and hopefully
Good.
she'll respond while we're on this call.
Okay,
Sounds good.
sounds good. All right, well, again, thanks to the council, we are going to have opportunities to vote at remote locations with staggered hours, with some Saturday hours. The whole dropping off ballots is a work in detail. And again, I am so pleased and happy with the leadership of the mayor and council to make voting easy.
Easier.
Yeah, and thanks, and please take back the gratitude of the Norfolk City Democratic Committee to your next work session on our behalf.
Charlie,
all right.
if I could just add one thing. If I could add one thing, Stephanie Isles is certainly looking for volunteers. So if anybody's interested, please raise your hand and reach out to her. And there's a link online. And Atoy and Barbara, I know that, she really could use those volunteers for this early voting. So I just put that out there. Thank you.
Especially for those satellites, because that's going to be, several times per week.
Right. And I guess you can put $1.98 in your back pocket as it's a small paying gig if you're looking for a little extra money. But yeah, we will do that. I've had some people send emails, what can I do? And part of the options I've been telling them is if you want to be an election official, that certainly is an opportunity and an option for you. So yeah, we'll try and make sure everybody is aware of that, and I don't know, Diane and I were talking about it over breakfast. If you could somehow get the YDs or just college kids involved, to be able to work a precinct and pick up $100 or something like that. Seems like that would be a great opportunity for younger folks. All right. Anything else on this issue before we turn it over to Congressman Scott? All right. Well, again, gratitude from the Norfolk City Democratic Committee. Thank you. All right. As that segue goes to our great third Congressional District Congressman Bobby Scott. Nothing happening at the federal level, right?
Nothing. Well, Elaine mentioned the fact that the president is taking out any kind of racial sensitivity training, just in case somebody might get sensitized to racial issues. I just remind people the first thing that Betsy DeVos did was to eliminate a grant program that dealt with that Obama had started to help school systems that voluntarily wanted to integrate their schools. It's a little tricky because the Supreme Court found in Louisville and Seattle that their school integration plans were unconstitutional. And so it can be done. You just need to be a little sophisticated to make sure you can get past the constitutional challenge and make sure it's effective. Little $30 million program, about 30 cities that applied. Betsy DeVos came in and they canceled the program without sending out any money. So I mean that's what we're dealing with. We're trying to open the schools. Schools need money to effectively open, and we're trying to negotiate the HEROES Act. We got a lot of work to do. One question was made about counting the votes early. That's a little more sensitive than it sounds, because you can't start count. Nobody should know what the count is before the end of the election day. If you were to find out that, oh my God, this thing is closer than we thought, put out the word, we got to get our people in. No one should have that information. Now, if they start that day and can keep it to themselves, keep any results to themselves, that gives them a head start. But having results come in early, people actually counting real live votes early is a little, we got to put a little thought into that. The constitutional amendment, the Charlie, I don't know if the city committee passed a resolution to put that on our sample ballot?
We have not. We have to talk about it at our next.
Okay, well, I would hope that you would. The state convention passed a resolution to oppose it and to ask localities to put it on the ballot, and I hope we would. Trying to get volunteer operations up and running in the middle of a pandemic is hard. We've got some way to do phone banks. I saw a presentation the other day where you can sign up. They can let you log in, and you can have phone numbers sent to you. I don't know if you can limit it to a precinct. That would be nice. But phone numbers, so you call a number and put in your notes, and then press go, and then the next number pops up.
Yeah.
So that's one thing we can do. But I think early vote and yard signs are going to be most of our effort. Is going to be an early vote, getting people out early. Souls to the polls and everything else. We should. All of these early voting sites sort of be overloaded, and because that's the main thing we actually can do. There's no excuse. By the time you get close to election day, you ought to have just a handful of people that have any kind of Democratic indication on the voting rolls that haven't voted. Everybody ought to vote, and so that's that. The final thing is the Labor Day cookout. We're still having our Labor Day cookout. 3 o'clock on Labor Day, and Ryan will tell you how you can attend. Ryan.
Yes, you
Ryan,
can view. Yes, you can view the Labor Day cookout on Congressman Scott's campaign website, BobbyScottForCongress.com, or on the Facebook page, Bobby Scott for Congress page. It'll stream live at 3 o'clock, virtually on Sunday. I mean on Monday.
Yeah,
September 7th.
Don't show up at on Shore Drive. Nobody's going to be there. But we didn't want to skip the cookout. We have some. We have a lot of people. Elaine is interviewing Cameron Webb. Let's give a little preview. Cameron Webb is a Democratic nominee in the 5th. That's the one that Tom Perriello won in a presidential year, but lost in a close election the following year in the Republican wave. I think Cameron has a good shot at that. The Republican nominee got bounced by because he wasn't conservative enough, and he is not a happy camper. So hopefully he's going around the district bad-mouthing the nominee, and that's worth a couple of points. And so I hope that we're very optimistic about that. There are a couple of we have 2 other nominees in the 1st, Qasim, and in the 7th. No, it was in open seats. In the 6th, who's the candidate in the 6th, Brian?
Nicholas Betts.
Nicholas Betts, thank you. But Cameron is the one on DCCC Red to Blue. But we have a lot of interviews, and a lot of people are going to pop up and say something nice. So 3 o'clock on Labor Day, we get started.
Very good. I don't want to put you on the spot, but Emma Walters, our new coordinated campaign organizer for Norfolk, is on the call here, and she might be able to answer, because as I am working with Emma and Elaine and the organizers, we are going to have the ability to go precinct by precinct in our calls.
On the
Is that
phone
right, Emma?
list?
Oh, yes, we are going to create that, I believe later today, after we know which precincts we're doing.
Right.
And I live in Texas, so if I call any of you guys and a Texas phone number shows up, it's because I'm in Texas. But that's because they hired remotely this year. But I'm really excited to work with you guys remotely. It kind of is not as much fun remotely, but it'll be really fun either way. I refuse to make it not fun. So.
All right. Well, we're going to get to work. Kari, I see your hand is up. You got something for the Congressman?
Yes, I do. I have noticed that on the state side, and Bobby, you've done a tremendous job of really keeping us informed on the COVID side of the house. And so my question ends up is whether or not I keep seeing on the state website that we have at least one hospital in this area who has had problems with PPE. Is that the same hospital, or is it rotating, or do you have any information regarding that?
I haven't heard, at the very beginning, there was a serious PPP problem. There are shortages, but I mean, I think it's in terms of not having 30 days worth, the number of days you've got. I think Courtney can probably give a better answer to that. Courtney,
Yeah,
could you talk about Centera on PPPs? PPEs,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, so right now we have a good PPE supply, and we have secured good sources for PPE, and we certainly monitor that 30, 60, 90, 120 days out for gloves, masks, gowns, and so on. And then many of us are reprocessing certain PPE as well, that we're able to do so and actually give it back to the actual individual. So if I'm Courtney Doyle, nurse, and I have a PPE that's reprocessed, it comes back to me, which is great. So I also know that in our region here, we are collaborating with other health systems so that if there's a shortage of something, let's say at Bon Secours or Chesapeake, we can help them out, then we do so. And so we're collaborating, I think, quite well here in our region that way. And I think in other parts of the state that's happening as well. And the Virginia Department of Health has actually encouraged that collaboration. And so weekly, literally, Chesapeake, Riverside, Bon Secours, Centera are at the table talking about their numbers, their supplies, trends, et cetera. Numbers in terms of the actual COVIDs on vents, COVIDs in the ICU, et cetera. Does that answer your question?
Charlotte,
Yes.
this is Spruill. Can you hear me, Charlotte? This is Spruill.
Yeah, hey, Senator. How are you, sir?
Yeah, we are on that same subject. The Hampton Roads Caucus every 2 or 3 or 4 weeks. We do have a conference call with all the regional hospitals, and as for the PPE, they're up. There's nobody behind. They'll work with one another with that, and we will have another one probably the second week in September, and that would be Chesapeake, Bon Secours, Centera, Riverside. I think that's what it is, and they meet, they give an update. They give an update exactly of what we are doing. So we'll next meeting will be sometime early in September on that. But there is no shortage because they have agreed that if one is short, they would help subsidize one another. So right now, as far as the PPE concerned, they're all up and there's nobody lacking right now.
Good. All right.
Oh, and FYI, I did get a response back from Stephanie Isles, and she said you cannot register to vote and vote on the same day because there is a 5-day waiting period between the date of registration and the first day a person can absentee vote.
I don't think so. Okay.
All right.
That's
Something we're gonna have to look into. Yeah.
There is a 5-day wait period between voter registration and absentee voting.
I would tell you, we are telling folks the same as Barbara is doing. We're saying go down to register, and when you register that day, we're telling them they can vote that same day. Now, I got to check into that. I don't think that's quite right. I'll check into it.
Well, if that's what the registrar is saying, that's what you're going to be dealt with. So if it's not right, Lionel, we got to get some higher authority.
Right.
So
Okay.
check with the State Board of Elections to see what the deal is.
Yeah, let's get
Okay.
that
It has a
clarified.
statute this past session that allowed same-day registration, but it does not take effect until 2021.
Okay. Interesting. All right. Well, yeah. We'll
Hey,
get
if I could
clarified.
weigh in, I've sent a text to Stephanie Isles and asking her that specific question. I'm just waiting for a return on that.
All
I
right.
think
Welcome,
I think
Sheriff.
Atoya just heard from Stephanie.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess the question is that in code or is that something specific to Norfolk?
Well, Lionel and I are going to find out.
Yeah.
You're
Well,
right.
it would not be just Norfolk.
Right.
It would be state.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Definitely statewide. Uh-huh.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Well, we could come away with a homework assignment. So, and as a segue, needless to say, great Senator Spruill is now on the call. He'll be introduced here shortly. Joe Barron, our great sheriff, is on the call. Welcome. And I see Adale Martin for the Norfolk School Board is on the call. So thank you for participating this morning. All right. Bobby, thank you very much for the update. Now moving on to the General Assembly. Lionel Spruill, Senator, what kind of updates you have? I know it's been a busy time for the Senate and the House.
Right now, we are really working on the bills, trying to work in conjunction with the House. We do have a problem with the Senate leadership and the House leadership are working together. I'm talking about Democrats now on what bills that has been approved in the Senate and the House. And those bills on voting bills, the bills as far as the chokehold bill. We had one yesterday that they fell in the House yesterday, which was coming to us. And right now, we seem to think that the problem we're having right now is that the two sides, the House and the Senate Democrats leadership, they're not really working together on those things. But the House is doing a great job on those bills that's been passed throughout the Senate. But the key is this: when we go into our caucuses and we ask them and say, hey, now what's going on with the House? You know, these bills, we want to make sure that we would hold up and make sure that the bill that come from the House side, we're hoping to get those this week coming up. We do not have all those bills yet. One of the main ones we're concerned. So with that, you know, as far as the chokehold bill, as far as the brutality, as far as the statute bill, all that kind of stuff, we're all aware of that. But the key is we're having is trying to be on one accord with the House and the Senate on getting things done. It was so bad one time, Charlie, that we have asked the governor to intervene to make sure that the House and the Senate Democrats can work together on what we are trying to accomplish. And that's where we are right now. But as far as our bills, the bills that Republicans are putting in on the Senate side, that they are not good bills for the Democrats and our community, we have shut those down completely. That we have done. But we still have bills that's coming from the House and the Senate that for some reason we're not working close on together. So I'm not going to any particular bill because we don't know exactly what the House would do with some of our bills and vice versa. But we really got to get together, and the House had some great bills that are coming from the House side, and we have a few on the Senate side. It's just a matter of, child, that we're not working together. So you say, well, give me a particular bill. We can't because we don't know what they're going to do in the Senate and the House. But we are getting things done, but we have agreed on this. We won't let them, the other side of the aisle, we call it Republicans, we won't let them get anything out of that Senate that the House would not be aware of. So that's where we are right now. We are on track as killing all the bad bills. We're on track as far as getting money for for the school, the budget concern. We look at the budget. Janet Howard, who's the chairperson of finance, we look at that, and we are close. I was told that they are close on the budget with the House and the Senate. But they are real close together on that, which that's a good thing for us. And we truly we get that done, we'll be in good shape. So the budget's one of the main things, and now we're waiting. Now, last is that those things that will come down from the governor, and once that gets done, then we'll know exactly where we are. But if anybody can tell us how to make the leadership, it's not the rank and file folks like ourselves, but the leadership to work together in the House and the Senate, we can get a whole lot done. And that's where we are at this point, is that our leadership on both sides of the aisle are not working together. That's it.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll use that as a segue to bring up Delegate Joe Lindsey from the House of Delegates. You on here, Joe? Oh, you're on mute. Let me, got to unmute you.
Good morning, Charlie.
There you go. How are you, sir?
Doing well. Good morning, Democrats. I can tell you that that the senator has hit the nail on the head in many respects. We've got some challenges, and I guess it comes with growing pains and now being the new majority both in the House and the Senate. The Senate has some ideals as to how we're going to go about business. They don't always coincide with what the House thinks, and and sometimes there's a little bit of friction. But I think that, as always, we're gonna get through it, and we're gonna make things work. We've got some priorities on the House side, looking at COVID relief, looking at funding of the budget as it relates to K through 12. We also have the situation of looking at what we're going to do with criminal justice reform. I think we've done some great things in terms of some new legislation that has passed the House and is now headed over to the Senate. Things like banning chokeholds, looking at no longer having no-knock invasions into private homes, and we did a real strong assessment of this whole issue of qualified immunity and whether or not it was appropriate in the time. There was not the appetite to pass it, but that was a bill that was actually very close to passage in the House. So there's so COVID relief, funding for our schools, looking at the budget shortfall, and also handling our elections and what we're doing in terms of making access to the voting box easier for those who want to vote. Those are the things that primarily we were looking at in the House this special session. I expect that we're going to go for another 2 or 3 weeks. We're going to send our legislation over to the Senate side. The Senate did an omnibus bill. We did particular pieces of legislation, and it's going to be how we make all of that come together.
All right, thank you, Delegate Lindsey. Delegate Guy?
Thank you, Charlie. From where I sit, the issue is really we have a 10-person majority, and the poor folks over in the Senate only have a 2-person majority. And it makes it harder for them. They tend to be more conservative in their approaches. And although we broadly agree, and I'm sure that Senator Spruill and I are on the same page on issues, the leadership in the Senate tends to want to go more slowly. We are at an inflection point on criminal justice reform and policing reform. People are literally marching, some dying in the streets. There are people in the Democratic caucus who feel very strongly that now is the time. and that we have to move forward on issues that we have been delaying action on for a very long time. And it's just going to be a question of how far and how fast we go. In the House, we tend to go further and faster. That's really the way the founders constructed it. The Senate was supposed to be kind of the slow down lane. This
Cooling
week,
saucer. Yeah.
we have passed the Marcus Alert Bill out of the House. We passed civilian review boards out of the House. It is a mandate that you have the board, but it is the exact duties of the board are defined permissively by the county and city officials, which is the way it should be. We passed the chokehold ban. We passed the no-knock warrant ban. I think those are going to be pretty, as Joe said, civil immunity hit a roadblock. It went down on a 47 to 48 with 3 abstentions vote. But it got a lot of, it is a new idea. Only Colorado has actually passed one. Virginia doesn't tend to like to be the first. But it got robust discussion inside our caucus and on the floor. And I think robust discussion is a step in the right direction. The one policing bill that's still out there is demilitarization of police. I think everybody's in broad agreement on banning purchase of weapons of war to our local police communities. Dan Helmer, who is the patron of the bill in the House, went way further. And he, I don't know if any of y'all know who Dan Helmer is. He's a fellow freshman. He took the last seat, last Northern Virginia Republican seat this past election. He is a former Army Ranger. He knows more about weapons than anybody I know. He was actually one of the co-patrons of the assault weapons ban, which went down. He's done a brilliant job with this bill, and the sticking point is that he wants to ban all chemical weapons, the use of all chemical weapons that are banned under the Chemical Weapons Treaty to which the United States is a signatory. People may not realize this, but there are 159 states that are, I can't remember the exact name of it, but it falls broadly under the Geneva Conventions. Tear gas is on that list. Tear gas cannot be deployed in a field of war against actual terrorists, ISIS, Al-Qaeda. But it is legal in 49 states to use it against American citizens on the streets of America. So he's actually drafted the bill to ban the use of chemical weapons as banned under this convention, not mentioning tear gas, which I think is, a brilliant way to go about it, because who the heck is going to argue that it's a good idea? But we are going to get pushback. And he went so far as to ban the use of kinetic energy rounds, also known as rubber bullets. He actually gave me a study that was conducted in England, a medical study, comprehensive case study. 3% of people that are hit by rubber bullets die. They are not non-lethal, they are less lethal. And he wants to see them prohibited. It's going to be a heavy lift if we prohibit them. I think he's got consensus to prohibit their use when fired indiscriminately into crowds. And that may be as far as we can go. But that is really the only remaining policing bill that has to come over. And then, as both Joe and Senator Spruill have said, we're going to have to figure out how to marry together our individual bills with their omnibus bill, and knowing that in most instances our individual bills are a little more aggressive, progressive than theirs are. So that's where we are. It's been an interesting process doing this on Zoom.
All right. Well, before I turn this over to Joe and Adele for some city issues, is there a question or two for our General Assembly members as we're closing in on the 10 a.m. hour? All right. Well, we know you guys are working hard. The good news, I guess, is the budget impact was not nearly as severe as we had initially hoped. So your work at getting the budget squared away is not as hard, hopefully, as it could have been with $1 billion or $2 billion shortfall that might have happened. All right. Well, thank you for all your hard work. Sheriff, you want to, I see you've gone, there you are. There's that smiling face. What's going on at your department?
Well, Charlie, thank you very much. First and foremost, I just want to make sure everybody knows that my golf tournament apparently is still on for September 25th. So if anybody wants to get a team in, they're welcome to do so. They can just contact me. I know Charlie is going to have a team in with the great support of Evans Poston, who I absolutely love and respect. At the Sheriff's Office, let me give you a little bit of news. As you may know or you may not know, is the Norfolk City Jail back in April experienced a COVID-19 outbreak with our staff and with inmates. I could tell you prior to that outbreak in March, even prior to the governor's emergency orders and the presidential emergency orders, I saw the writing on the wall related to COVID-19, and we were having meetings and preparing and planning in the event that it came to our jail. I will say this to everybody. It's not a matter of if it's going to come to your jail. It's a matter of when. There's really no way of preventing it, even though we changed lots of our processes to try to manage it better and to slow down any potential threat that could occur from COVID-19 in our operations, including we stopped visitation. We no longer have attorneys that can come into the jail for visitations. They do that through video, or if they have paperwork that needs to be signed, we have a process in which they can do that and still get that done in a safe manner. Inmates for the longest time were not going over personally into the courts. We still have that. We do as much through video arraignments and video hearings that we can, that the courts will allow us to do, which reduces risk. It's all about reducing risk and educating our staff and the inmates on how to protect themselves in this environment. And we've done an outstanding job in reference to that. We talk to the health department almost every single day. And the outbreak that we had back in April, we managed well and it ended. We recently had another outbreak, very, very small. The one back in April ended up being around 43 inmates and 13 of our staff. Recently, we had another group of our staff that ended up testing positive. It was like 2 on each of our teams and plus a couple from the courts. Because we've become so adept at identifying symptoms and training our staff to understand when they see the symptoms to stay home and go get tested. And then we personally, and with the health department does it too, but contact tracing, we get our investigators on top of it right away, and we do our own contact tracing so that we can identify people early on who we need to send home or quarantine. Anyways, the good news is we have not had anybody who has tested positive who became extremely ill, requiring being on a ventilator. Almost 100% of the people have recovered. I think we have one more left that is in that time frame, and as soon as the time frame is done, then they will be considered safe. We're following all CDC guidelines and all health department guidelines as we've identified them and as they change, because as you all know, these guidelines change. It seems almost weekly, but we are keeping up on those guidelines, and we're changing with the best minds of the CDC and the health department. I hope that's received with good news, and everyone is that we're maintaining the trust of, our constituents, that we're doing everything we can to ensure the health and well-being of the inmates in our population and in our jail, and our staff and the care and well-being of our staff. I will tell you, everyone, that this year we added to our mission statement and our values and our motto, which everyone has heard from me multiple times. But we've created our vision statement. Is that the purpose of the Norfolk Sheriff's Office is to make a positive difference in people's lives as far as we can reach. And so my staff now are guided and encouraged to look for opportunities every single day to make a difference in somebody's life. And I am excited every single time that I hear about a staff member that is doing exactly that, whether it's when they're working part-time and stepping up and helping a citizen, which happened quite recently. We got a wonderful letter from a citizen talking about how she lost her wallet at a Walmart, and she came back and she was frantic, and because you know how it is, you carry your whole life in your wallet, and the deputy was working part-time there, and he was able to calm her down and say, well, come on, let's go look at the videos. And they backtracked the video and they found her, and they watched her, walking through the store while she was shopping, and they were able to identify where she had put her wallet down. And the deputy went and found that location, found her wallet and retrieved it. And she was so grateful to the extra work and care that a deputy took time to be caring and compassionate. That's what I preach. I preach it every single day to our staff, to show care and compassion for everybody. And that includes our inmates, and that includes each other, and that includes our community. So we're on the right track, and we're doing the right thing. And I thank you for the time to share that information. Charlie, back to you.
All right. Just remember, don't feel, or you might want to consider a special prize for the team that finishes in last place in your golf tournament.
Well, we already had that prize. We already had that prize for you, Charlie. hey, a shout out to Nancy Guy and Senator Spruill. There's been a lot of legislation out there in reference to police reform, and most of it, I have to tell you, I agree with. Especially related to no-knock search warrants, and there's a lot of good stuff that someone that's been in the business for 35 years like me, we can provide a lot of positive input to that. And my hat's off to Nancy and to Lionel for always taking my calls and always listening to our concerns related to bills, not always agreeing, and that's okay. But the fact that they are listening and providing feedback and what they're hearing, and at least considering our concerns. I think that's a big deal, and my hat's off to them, and I applaud them for their efforts.
All right,
I want to shout out back at Joe, because I have actually touted Joe to several of my colleagues as that rarest of rare things, an actually progressive sheriff. And he has taken the time to talk to other people around the state, and I wish everybody, obviously I don't get a lot of conversation FaceTime with my own sheriff since I defeated his brother. But Chief Boone and Joe Barron have been a delight to work with as we make what I think are necessary changes in our communities to satisfy all constituencies. Some members of the Democratic caucus take it as a point of pride that they don't even talk to people in law enforcement. Well, I think that's short-sighted and wrong. We represent all different constituencies, and Joe knows that too. And I'll just throw out an example. He is one of the leaders on the home electronic monitoring system, and there was a question about funding for home electronic monitoring systems that was actually being carried, an amendment being carried by Delegate Sally Hudson of Albemarle County, Charlottesville. And I put the two of them together, it was like a love fest. They both ended up calling me saying, wow, what a great person to work with. And now they're working together cooperatively to expand that program and not be penal. And that's the way democracy should work at its best.
Hey, there you
And
go.
Charlie,
Yes.
I want to say, piggyback on what Nancy just said about the sheriff and Chief Boone working together. We actually had Chief Boone to speak to some of the inmates in our Second Chance program a couple of weeks ago. And he told the story of how he grew up in the project. He had been arrested, and the story of how he rose above those challenges of being in environments around drugs and just a negative start, but turned out to be recognized on a national level. Another thing that sheriff should be proud of is that the Norfolk Sheriff Office is one of few, if not the only, facility that we have heard of that's offering absentee voting. Everybody that's in jail is not a felon. We have people who are in jail who still are entitled to exercise their right to vote. So we had inmates to vote in this last primary in May, and we're offering that same opportunity for this upcoming election. Rick James and I are working on setting a deadline. We know we have to kind of gauge it a little earlier than the deadline that's set by the state, so that we can make sure that they get their ballots in time. So thank you, Sheriff, for extending.
Betty, thank you very much for those kind words.
We love you, Sheriff. You can keep quiet, Sheriff. We all love you. You can keep quiet. We love you.
All right. Hey, we're running
Hey,
late.
hey, Charlie, this is Joe Lindsey. Let me
Yes,
just
sir.
jump in. You may have noticed that the sheriff didn't give me a shout out.
I saw that.
Yeah, well, and I'm sure it was an oversight.
Hey, Joe,
Joe,
hey, let me just say, Joe Lindsey has absolutely, and I apologize for that, Joe. I forgot you were on the line, but Joe Lindsey, just as Lionel has and Nancy has, Joe Lindsey answers every single one of my phone calls, and I appreciate that more than he recognizes. Is my mistake for not giving a shout out to Joe. He is absolutely a friend, and and a advocate for the concerns of the sheriff's office and for me. Doesn't always agree, as we all don't always agree, but he has been a fantastic representative for the city of Norfolk. He is my delegate, by the way. I vote for him, and will continue to do so in the future.
All right. Before we get to a few open
Charlie?
things. Yes.
Charlie, I have an update on the 5-day waiting period.
Okay, when we'll, I just want to.
Anybody?
We'll get to it.
Okay.
Since we have Adele on the line, if she wants to give a minute or two on what's happening at the schools and insights there. Adele, you got a minute or two for us?
Yeah, sure. I can speak to that. Thank you for the opportunity. And good morning, everyone. It's so great to see all of you. So normally I would be reminding you that our schools are opening and to watch, drive safely to and from work, but that's not the case this year. Norfolk Public Schools will begin the 2020-21 school year this Tuesday, excuse me, September 8th with virtual learning. NPS is providing Chrome laptops to all students, even multiple students in one household. We started this in the spring. And we're continuing to, they've already been delivered to most families should have them. If they do not, please have families contact their principals for them. We are also providing a MiFi hotspot device to families who have requested it. These are one per household. The Chrome laptops are per child, so you can have multiple in a household. So but the MiFi hotspots I've learned can have the capacity for up to 15 devices. There are also resources for childcare services that are being provided by community partners. There are limited spaces and some fees attached to those, but it's a good option, especially our essential workers. Norfolk Schools was the first district to determine our plan for the fall reopening. And since this decision in July, the Norfolk Public School Administration and staff, under the direction of Dr. Sharon Birdsong, our superintendent, they've been working around the clock to help prepare and inform our community for this fall semester. The safety of our students, teachers, and staff continues to be of the utmost importance to us, and we believe beginning the school year virtually is the most responsible option. I know a lot of our private schools are doing variations of hybrid and in-person learning, but for us, this is the right decision to make. Dr. Birdsong and her staff will continue to monitor the local health conditions in consultation with the Norfolk Public Health Department and my school board colleagues to return to in-person instruction when deemed safe. That is, we all know and believe, we believe that in-person instruction is the best environment for our children. But of course, we're looking at this through a safety lens, and we're dealing, I didn't create COVID, we're all dealing with it in our capacities. And so again, that was the best option for us. And I'm happy to answer any questions if we have time for that.
Well, thank you very, very much for the update. These are difficult times, and you guys are doing a great job working through it.
Thank you.
Especially with the Chromebooks and the hotspots. All right. Well, before we go, I know Barbara has something, Sandra Brandt has something. I did want to just give a couple of things before we go to announcement. One, I didn't see a lot of new faces, but if you're a new face, welcome to and we invite you to get active and involved in our committee. My phone and email is blown up. We have yard signs on order coming in, so don't worry about it. We will be getting them out in the field as soon as we receive them, hopefully next week. Put them together and we will start getting them out into the field. And then, as I had intimated earlier, we are going to start rolling out with Emma's help, our neighbor-to-neighbor phone banking, because I agree with Congressman Scott. Our job is to get everybody to have already voted before November 3rd comes rolling around. So that's going to be a big function of the committee going forward for these last 59 days. So with that, I know Sandra Brandt, you've had your hand up for a while. You got an announcement?
I have.
Sandra
Yeah,
Brandt,
I have a couple of things. That Charlie mentioned, the 2nd Congressional District has been blessed with signs, and the Biden-Harris campaign has been keeping me in touch with that, and we hope to have them by next Friday, but I don't hold my breath until I hear the final date coming in. We're getting quite a few. I've even asked for more, so if you know folks that need Biden signs, let us know. I know a couple of the delegates and senators on here has already asked me to set aside some for them, and I'll be glad to do that. The other thing I want to mention is many of you know that I have been deeply involved in the restoration of voting rights, and I'm on the state Secretary of the Commonwealth Stakeholders Committee. And we heard 2 days ago, or I guess yesterday actually, on September 23rd, if you have individuals who you see when you're out registering people to vote that cannot vote because they are a felon, we have until the 23rd of this month to get them into the state to be able to be approved before Election Day, so they can be able to register to vote. So that's September 23rd.
You didn't mean Election Day.
No, September 23rd is the deadline, and then they'll register everybody after that so they can vote on Election Day.
They have to register by October 13th.
Right, I know, but in order to be able to, they have to do that by October 13th, but in order to vote by November 3rd. So that's why we're doing about 20 days ahead so that people can get registered by the 23rd in order to be able to vote on the 3rd.
All right.
That's it. Thank you.
Great. And I forgot there was one other announcement. The sorority folks, Alpha, Kappa, Alpha, etc. Just as an announcement, on September 12th at 10 o'clock, they do have a virtual town hall candidates forum. I believe Sia Price, Jones, Jay Jones, Don Scott, and some others. So you can look up those folks. They're going to do it on their Facebook Live forum. So if you want to participate or watch that town hall of the sororities, that is there. And then Barbara, your update.
Yes. Apparently, I missed this in Virginia. Early voting is considered absentee voting.